What drives a woman to commit acts of unspeakable horror? Delve into the dark and twisted minds of 10 of the world's most infamous female serial killers. Their stories of deception, cruelty, and cold-blooded murder will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the human psyche. Before we start, make sure to subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon for more update. Today we're diving into some truly chilling stories. You may have heard the saying, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." But these female serial killers prove that the fury of these women goes beyond mere scorn. From Europe to America, these women have committed heinous crimes that will leave you unsettled. 10. Leonardo Cianciulli. Leonardo Cianciulli seemed like an ordinary woman, but her story is truly chilling. In the 1930s, she ran a small shop in Italy where she sold tea cakes and soap. What her customers didn't know was that these products had a gruesome secret. Leonardo was using her victims' bodies as ingredients in her baking and soap making. Her troubled past played a big role in her descent into this madness. She had suffered from 17 miscarriages and believed her life was cursed, especially after a fortune teller told her that all her children would die young. Desperate to protect her surviving children, Leonardo resorted to murder, thinking it would somehow break the curse. Eventually, her crimes were uncovered and she was arrested. Leonardo was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum. She died in 1970, leaving behind a legacy of horror that still fascinates and terrifies people today. 9. Juana Barraza. Juana Barraza, known as a notorious serial killer, had a dark and tragic past that shaped her into the criminal she became. Born in Hidalgo, Mexico, her childhood was filled with abuse and neglect, leaving her deeply scarred. This painful upbringing fueled the anger and hatred she carried into adulthood. Barraza targeted elderly women, pretending to be a kind caregiver to gain their trust. Once inside their homes, she would brutally bludgeon and strangle them. For a long time, authorities believed the killer was a man, which made it difficult to catch her. However, in 2006, they were shocked when Barraza was finally caught. She was convicted of 16 murders, although it's believed she may have killed more. Barraza was sentenced to an astonishing 759 years in prison, ensuring she would never be free again. 8. Griselda Blanco. Griselda Blanco, often called the cocaine godmother, was one of the most feared figures in the Medellin drug cartel. Born in Colombia, she became a major player in the cocaine trade, especially during the 1970s and 1980s. Blanco was notorious for her brutal tactics, hiring hitmen to carry out murders on her behalf. It's believed she was responsible for over 250 deaths, making her reign one of the bloodiest in drug cartel history. One of the most infamous incidents linked to her is the 1979 Miami-Dade Mall massacre, a shocking display of violence in broad daylight. Blanco was eventually captured in 1985 and sentenced to prison for drug trafficking and murder. After serving her time, she was released but didn't escape her violent past. She was assassinated in 2012 at the age of 69. 7. Amelia Dyer. Amelia Dyer was one of Victorian England's most notorious criminals, known as a baby farmer. In the late 1800s, many unwed mothers were desperate to find someone to care for their babies, and Dyer offered to help for a fee. But instead of providing care, she neglected and starved the infants, leading to their deaths. It's believed that over her criminal career, she may have killed up to 400 babies. The horrifying extent of her crimes was revealed when a baby's body was found floating in the River Thames, leading authorities back to Dyer. She was arrested, tried, and eventually executed in 1896. Her case remains one of the most shocking in British history, highlighting the grim realities of the time for vulnerable women and children. 6. Karla Homolka. In Canada, Karla Homolka and her husband, Paul Bernardo, became notorious for their horrific crimes in the early 1990s. Dubbed the Ken and Barbie killers because of their seemingly perfect looks, they were involved in the rapes and murders of several young girls, including Karla's own sister, Tammy. Karla claimed that she was forced into these crimes by Bernardo, but evidence suggested she played a more active role than she admitted. Despite this, Karla struck a deal with prosecutors and was sentenced to 12 years in prison, a punishment many felt was too lenient given the severity of her crimes. After serving her full sentence, she was released in 2005 and started a new life under a different name. 5. Elfriede Blauensteiner. Elfriede Blauensteiner is a name that still haunts Austria. She was known for preying on vulnerable women, pretending to be a caring friend. But behind this friendly facade, she had a deadly plan. Blauensteiner would gain the trust of these women, only to later lure them to their deaths. Her crimes went unnoticed for a while, as she was skilled at hiding her tracks. It was only after several women had mysteriously disappeared that authorities began to suspect something was terribly wrong. When the truth came out, it shocked the entire country. Blauensteiner was eventually caught, tried, and sentenced to life in prison for her horrific deeds. 4. Nanny Doss. Nanny Doss, known as the Giggling Granny, is one of the most chilling serial killers in US history. Despite her friendly and cheerful appearance, she had a dark side that no one suspected. Over several decades, she poisoned her own family members, including 4 husbands and several of her children. She seemed like a sweet old lady, which made it hard to believe she was behind so many deaths. It wasn't until the 1950s that her crimes were uncovered, shocking everyone who knew her. When the truth came out, it was revealed that she had been slowly and methodically killing those close to her. 3. Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory, famously known as the Blood Countess, was a Hungarian noblewoman with a terrifying reputation. People say she was responsible for the torture and murder of many young girls. What makes her story even more chilling are the rumors that she bathed in their blood to keep herself looking young. While some of these tales might be exaggerated, there's no denying that she committed horrible crimes. Eventually, her actions caught up with her, and she was imprisoned for the rest of her life. 2. Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias became widely known in recent times for a horrifying crime she committed. She brutally murdered her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, in a shocking act of violence. The case caught the public's attention because of the extreme nature of the crime and the fact that it was carefully planned. Arias's actions were both violent and deliberate, which made the whole situation even more disturbing. After a highly publicized trial, she was found guilty in 2013. The court sentenced her to life in prison without any chance of parole. 1. Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos is a name many people know because of her disturbing story. She was an American serial killer who took the lives of 7 men during the late 1980s. Wuornos worked as a prostitute, and she claimed that she killed these men in self-defense. According to her, she was trying to protect herself while doing her job. Her life was filled with hardship and tragedy, and her crimes made headlines because of their brutality. This combination of a troubled past and violent actions led to a dramatic end. In 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed for her crimes. These stories reveal the darker side of humanity, demonstrating how personal trauma and mental instability can lead to unimaginable cruelty. If you found this video unsettling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling content.